Again. Thank you guys for showing up. As Leroy said, we're going to make this really fast. And I'm also catching the load shedding virus now that I'm here. Can't wait for my electricity to come back, hopefully in the next 5 minutes. But thank you for joining us. As you know, Leroy has been doing these classes continuously on the first Thursday of every month. We moved it to today because last week he had load shedding. And as he said, we're going to go very, very fast. So I'm not going to take up any more time. You're allowed to ask questions. Maybe because of the time factor today, we only have about 50 minutes, 55 minutes maximum. Please just post in the chat and then we'll come back to the question.
Okay, that's good. So thanks, Vangile. So hi guys, welcome. So what is this? Our second or third session, eh? Third session, I think. Third session. Okay, so let's see. Okay, you guys know me. You know what I do, so I'm gonna move through that quickly. All right, so last time we covered power team. All right, let me just I'm just trying to close because I'm seeing all of you guys here, so I don't know how to, so I don't see you. Where does it go now? Okay, someone accept that, Lydia. Who's accepting people coming in? Admit. Can you guys admit Lydia there?
We have, which is already admitted. It's Penny and myself. We're admitting people. She's already.
No, I can't. So last time we spoke about core power team, right? And we spoke about the professional team. So you guys are clear. Today I want to talk about running the numbers. So we're going to take you through basic calculations. We're going to take you through how to calculate the gross yield, how to calculate your cash flow, how to calculate what else is there? Return on investment. So we're going to take you through a couple of basic calculations. These are basic calculations that you need to know if you want to invest in property, right? If you do not know these calculations and you can't do the calculations, you are not an investor, you are a gambler. Okay? And most people have challenge with these numbers. So, but these are basic figures. Some of you might know them. Some of you might say, Leroy, this is very basic, but these are the basic numbers. They obviously, when you go into the bigger deals, there's debt cover ratios, there's IRRs, there's cap rates, there's all these complicated things. But these are the basic ones that any deal that you find, these are the basic calculations that you run to make sure that the deal will work. Okay. So are you running the numbers or does the numbers make you run? Let me see in the chat box quickly. Are you running the numbers or does the numbers make you run? Let's see, anyone good with numbers here? I've got my chat box open, so let me know quickly. Good with numbers? Yes. We have a few accountants on here. No one? What's happening here? Okay, that's fine. Let me just get out of here. I don't know what's happening with my. Right, okay, there we go. Right, that's gone. So, okay. So the running the numbers. So when running the numbers, there are 3 stages, right? In the process. Buying costs. So when you buy a property, there's buying costs involved, right? And I'm going to go through each of the stages and what costs are involved in them. Then at stage 2, this is your refurb and your holding costs. And this is where a lot of people lose money, right? It's on the holding costs. So a lot of people will say, listen, I'm going to buy this property for 200,000. I'm going to sell it for 500,000, but they don't know that it's going to take them 6 months to a year to sell that property. So in that time, there's holding costs involved, and they don't take that into consideration. And that's where a lot of people lose money, is in stage 2, which is the holding cost.
Recording in progress.
And then there's stage 3, which is you're either going to rent out the property or you're going to sell it. There's costs involved there, right? Stage 1, buying costs, you're buying the property, costs involved. Stage 2, refurb, you're holding the property. Now you're going to let it out and you're going to resell it. So there's costs involved there. So let's go through your capital costs, which are your stage 1 costs. These are the costs involved when you buy a property. Okay. Transfer attorney fees. You guys, that's basic, right? Transfer attorneys. Now, your transfer attorney fees, you can download the app Uber. There's a lot of these apps. You can get it on Property 24, private property. You put it in, my property is worth $1 million, and it will calculate an estimated transfer fees, right? Transfer duty. If your property is over $1 million, there's transfer duty involved. If it's under $1 million, there's no transfer duty involved, right? Your bond attorney fee. So if you're getting a bond, you've got your bond attorneys, okay? They've got fees, the bank's attorneys, and then you have either the seller or your attorneys, which are the transferring attorneys. There's 2 attorneys if you have a bond. There's deposit. If you don't get 100% bond, you get 90% bond, 80% bond, you have to pay a deposit. Okay, so that's fees. If you're buying at an auction, okay, you have to make sure if you're buying at a sheriff's auction, there are outstanding rates and taxes. So if you're buying at an auction, you are liable for the previous owner's debt. So whatever they owed on rates, taxes, levies, you owe that now. So that's when you're buying at a sheriff's auction. Okay. So you need to know what that fees are before you go to an auction, because you're liable. Now you're liable for the loss. First, we were liable when I started buying at auctions, and we were liable for all the outstanding rates and taxes. Whether it was 5 years, the new buyer was liable. Now we're only liable for the last 2 years, and whatever debt, rates, taxes, and is that's older than 2 years, that stays on the previous owner's account. Okay, so this is if you're buying at auctions. Sheriff's commission. So if you're buying at a sheriff's auction, you pay the deposit, which was 10% immediately. You have to pay the sheriff's commission. That's anything from about 400 to about 15,000, depending on the price of the property. Okay, then also the rates. Okay, and if you had a private auction, the private auctioneer commission. So private auction is less riskier than a sheriff's auction, but there's also commission that you have to pay to the auctioneer. Okay, I'm not looking at the comments. So Vangile, if there is something you want to throw in quickly, the year, then, or let me go through all the stages and then we'll take the comments at the end. Is that okay? Okay. So,
yes, it's okay. Sorry, I was muted. I just wanted to say people have responded to the numbers. They said, yes, some people are saying no, they are scared. Some people are saying the numbers make them run. Some people are saying, yes, they run the numbers. Okay. But yeah, mainly they make you run.
They do, and they're quite simple. Obviously you need to go through them a few times, right? And that's why when you're starting out, when you do run the numbers, get someone to double check you. Okay, get a coach, get someone to double check you, and run the numbers on a lot of properties. Even if it's not a good deal, run the numbers. You keep doing it. It's like, hey, cause it's like maths or like golf, right? If you don't do it, it leaves you. If you hey, you can someone just told me on the golf course, they said if you leave it, it also leaves you. Okay, so keep doing it, even if it's on the rubbish deals. Keep run the numbers on your own house, run it on a lot of properties, and then it gets easier. You know what I would do if I was you as well? Take screenshots of this so you have it, because when I started out, I had a manual that I had way back. So I used to keep on going back. So I used to have it in my car or have it in a bag. Then everywhere I go and listen, how do I work out gross yield? And I forgot. I would go back to the book and do it like that. All right. Stage 2, refurbishment and holding stage. So this is where people lose money. As I said, they say, I'm going to buy it for R1 million. I'm going to rent it out for 10,000 rand. They don't know that to buy it, now you've got it, you refurbish it, that's 2 months, 3 months. You rent it out, you find a tenant in another month. So now you have 4 months of holding costs, okay, which you didn't calculate in your calculations. And now you're thinking you're making money, but you're not actually making money, because it's that time where it's where you have all these costs, and you didn't factor in. So your cost here, your rates and taxes. Okay, you have to pay rates and taxes while there's no tenants in, or you're still looking for a buyer. Your electricity and water, you have to pay that. So you have to know how much that is. Your bond and your interest. So if you're taking out a bond, you have to pay a bond before you sell it, or while you're still waiting for tenants to come in, or your interest. Refurbishment, how much is that? How much is it to get this property to get it to the how much is it going to cost you to refurbish this property? Levies, if you're in the sectional title, there'll be levies involved. Insurance, it's a cost that you need to factor in. Okay, so these are simple, guys. As I said, these are just your, I'm going to take you to the calculations now. I am moving quickly, but as I said, take a screenshot or photo of it. So your refurbishment cost while you're holding it, before you sell or before you rent it out, rates and taxes, electricity, water, bond and interest, refurbishment, levies and insurance. And we always, as an investor, we always think that we're going to sell it quicker than what we are. We're going to let it out. Sometimes it lets out if you bought the right property in the right area at the right price, then everything should go quickly. But sometimes it just doesn't happen as planned, right? You think I'm going to buy it and sell it immediately, and it takes you 6 months, or you sit with it for a year, or it takes you a few months before you find tenants, or before you find the right tenants, right? You need to know what costs are involved in it. Okay, stage 3. Now you've bought the property, you've refurbished it, you've factored in your holding cost. Now you either want to rent it out or you want to sell it. Okay, let's see what the costs involved there are. So now you have your bond and interest, right? Or interest. And because you've taken a bond out of it on this property, right? So you have to pay your bond, you have to pay your insurance, still your rates and taxes, your levies if it's in a sectional title, your maintenance. Remember, now you're renting out the property, you have to factor in maintenance. Okay, and we normally put, some people, we put normally about out of your rent, so we put about 8 to 10% aside for maintenance. Okay, because you are going to have maintenance. Tenants will move in, tenants will move out after a few months. You need to do maintenance, you need to paint, taps will break and whatever it is. So you need to factor in your maintenance. Management fee.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Leroy. Are you going to tell us the percentage of each thing? Like how much percentage do we have to factor for maintenance, percentage for management, what we need to be looking at in terms of factoring in things, how much of the rental income we put aside for maintenance?
Okay, out of your, I'll get to cash flow. I'll do that when we do the cash flow calculation. Just to remind me to tell you the exact. I'll show you an example. So I'm going to put in an example of a property. If you buy it for 800,000, you rent it out for 10,000 minus this, and I'll tell you the percentages. Now I'm telling you what costs are involved. Obviously, these costs will be different for different properties. So just make sure when you do buy a property, you know that these are the costs that are involved. Let me find out what these costs are. When you rent a property, make sure when you hold it, make sure you factor in those costs. When you let it out or sell it, make sure you know that these are the costs that will be involved. Bond, insurance, rates and taxes, levies, maintenance, management. Okay, now you're going to sell it. Let's say you're into flipping, you want to buy it and sell it. Mistake that people make, they say, I'm going to buy it for 500,000, I'm going to sell it for $1 million. But they don't know that you are not in the market, you don't have clients. How are you going to sell your property yourself? So you are probably going to give it to an estate agent. An estate agent is going to charge you anything from 5%. Let's say you find these attorneys 3%. Let's say anything from 5% to 7.55. That's excluding VAT. Okay. So now you need to say, okay, I'm going to buy it for 500. I'm going to have a holding cost in that time, which let's say that's 50,000. I'm going to sell it for $1 million. But on a million, I'm going to pay 5 to 7.55% commission has to come down from that. And that only once you've minus that, that'll come to me. Not I'm going to buy it for 500 and sell it for a million and make 500,000. Okay. You're not, an agent is going to sell it and you're going to have some holding costs involved in it. Right. So factor in your commission, your estate agent commission, if you are going to sell it, flip it. So those are the costs involved for stage 3, guys. I know I'm moving fast. Maybe we can cover it again. Now your fundamental calculations. So these are the calculations that you need, right? Your basic calculations: gross yield, cash flow, capital costs, return on investment. And we're going to use the cash flow in this example that I'm going to show you. We're going to use the cash flow calculation and the capital cost to determine what your ROI is, your return on investment. Okay. So firstly, so your gross yield, you use your gross yield to determine whether a property will cash flow or not. It's a quick calculation to determine whether this property will cash flow or not. Now your gross yield calculation, right? You do not make buying decisions on your gross yield calculation. It's just an indicator to tell you whether I should investigate further. Does that make sense, guys? I can't see the comments and I'm asking questions, but I can't see what you guys are saying. So, but that's fine. So gross yield is not, you don't
It's
make buying.
quiet. I think people are trying to figure out, I'm writing and focusing.
Okay. So your gross yield is a calculation to see if a property will potentially cash flow. You do not make a buying decision. A gross yield calculation tells you if your gross yield is a certain amount, which I'll tell you now, then you know it might be a good deal. Let me investigate further. Okay. If the yields look good, now you say, okay, let me move quickly. It looks like a great deal. If it's bad, you can say, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time going to look at this property or going in for. Does that make sense? So this calculation will save you a lot of time. You can also use this calculation if you're looking to analyze an area. Now you'll take a lot of the properties in the area, you'll do the gross yield calculations, and you'll see where the yields are in that area. If all the yields are low, then you don't even investigate further in that area, okay? Because the yields are low. The yields are high, then you say this is a good area to go invest in, okay? Your cash flow calculations is a simple calculation that will determine whether property cash flows. Not cash flow, so your gross yield says it can potentially cash flow. Your cash flow calculation will show you whether it really cash flows, okay? Then you have your capital costs and but you make buying decisions on your return on investment. Your return on investment is the money that you put into the deal. How much, what's my return on the capital that I put in the deal? So let's use example. Let's say you buy a property for $1 million. Okay, you get a 900,000 bond. You need a deposit for 100,000. Your attorney fee. Let's say your deposit and your attorney fees are all 100,000. Let's just use basic numbers. The money that you put into that property is not $1 million. You've just put 100,000 of your money into that, your capital cost. So you're going to work out your return, not on the $1 million. You're going to work out your return on the 100,000 rand that you put in. Okay. Let me use examples. So your gross yield calculation. So these are the calculations. As I said, screenshotted. Okay, two is in here. Your annual, so your gross yield calculation is your annual gross rent. So annual gross rent. What's your annual gross rent? That will take your monthly gross rent. For the example here, we're going to use 10,000. So you'll say 10,000 times 12 will give you an annual gross rent. That would be divided by the property price. Let's say you bought the property for 800,000 in this example. So you bought it for 800,000, you're renting it out for 10,000. You'll say 10,000 times 12 annual gross rent divided by the property price, 800,000 times 100, that will give you your gross yield. Okay. Now, let's say for this example, as I said, your rent. You can do the calculation, guys. You can do it as well, eh? Do the calculation where you are. Take 10,000, your monthly rent, okay, times 10,000 by 12. That will give you your annual gross rent, okay? That will be 120,000. What's happening to my thing here? Okay, but that's fine. So monthly rent of 10,000 times 12 will give you 120,000, okay? That's your annual gross rent for this example. Then you divide that by a purchase price. For this example, we bought the property for 800,000. We're renting it out for 10,000. So 10,000 times 12, 120 divided by the purchase price of 800,000. You times that by 100, and that will give you your gross yield of 15%. Bangile, is there a quick question on this one before I move on? Quite simple.
Oh, I'm also engrossed in making my own notes. I see no questions whatsoever.
Right.
Guys, feel free to type in the chat box.
Now, as I said before, I said gross yield is just an indicator as to whether property will give you a positive or a negative cash flow. I'm going to repeat that. Gross yield is just an indicator as to whether a property will give you a positive or a negative cash flow, okay? And we invest in property for what? Cash flow. That's what we invest in property for. Okay. Cash flow is what's going to pay after a few properties. That's what will replace your salary. Cash flow will make you be able to travel to Mexico and learn Spanish, right? And not worry about income, because you have a few properties that's giving you cash flow, and that cash flow replaces your income. And now you choose whether you want to work or not, because the properties and the cash flow from the properties replaces your income. And that's when you are financially free. Okay. And over time, that's what property does. Not a get rich quick scheme, but over time, you can get financially free if you buy the right properties that cash flows. Okay. Now, what is important here is that our current interest rate, prime, is at 8.25%, right? Now, if your gross yield is between 1 and 14%, okay, that's an indicator that tells you that this property will be a negative cash flowing property. Okay. The gross yield is between 1 to 14. That's an indicator. As I said, we don't make a buying decisions. It's an indicator to say this property will probably be a negative cash flowing property. If your gross yield is 15% and above, it's an indicator that says this property will be a positive cash flowing property. What does that mean? Positive cash flow means your rent comes in, right? Covers your bond, covers your other expenses. And at the end of that, there's a positive profit or cash flow. That's all cash flow means. Income minus expenses gives you a positive number. Okay. Now, what if a property, let's say you do your gross yield calculation and the calculation comes in at about 13%, 12%, whatever. Now you can say, okay, let me investigate further. Maybe the rentals are low. I might be able to increase the rentals. Maybe there's a granny flat that I can add on that will give me another income. Are you guys with me? So I would say, do not take this as a gospel and say, if it's under 15%, I'm not looking at it. Say, listen, it's between 12 and 15, or it's there. Let me investigate further. Maybe the rentals, I can push it up, which will take it to 15 plus. Maybe I can add another unit. Maybe I can add some value that will increase the income, and then it'll be a positive cash flow. Okay. Normally I spend more time on this, guys. I don't like being so rushed. It's like, because this needs a bit more time to, but as I said,
Leroy,
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? Take your time, and wherever we end, we'll continue in a few weeks. It's another 2 or 3 weeks because we delayed. So don't worry about load shedding. Where we end at like 7:55 p.m., it's where we'll end, and then we'll continue next time. It also gives us time to just process. We don't have to rush. We really believe in doing things super slow and easy here. So please don't worry about the time and try to fill us with as much information as possible. Just, yeah, give us time to breathe.
No, that's good. That's good. As I said, guys, maybe what we do is we do 2 sessions of this, because this is the most important thing, actually, because this is going to determine whether you're going to buy successful deals or not, right? And obviously, before you get into anything, you want to make sure that you run the numbers, run it, stress tested, let a coach, let someone who understands it, check it in the beginning stages. Some people have spreadsheets. We have spreadsheets that we put in that now these are manual. You can get a spreadsheet that does all these calculations for you, right? So gross yield, an indicator to whether property will be a positive or a negative cash flowing property. Negative cash flowing properties, your yields are potentially between 1 and 14%. If it's between, let's say, but now you know, let's say your yield comes out at 10%, right? But you know this is a huge yard. It was a family house. It has a garage. It has two granny flats in, and one family was staying in. So you know if you rent out the house alone, you can rent it out for 10,000. Let's use that. But if I convert the garage and put another 2,500 on there, now I have 12,500. If I put another person in the granny flat, now I add another 3,500. Put someone in this one, now I've got another 3,500. Now I've added another 9,000 to this property. Okay. But if I rent it out to one family, it's a negative cash flowing. The yields are low. But if I made it a multi-let, then it increases the income. Now my yields go up. Now it's a good deal. So this is not gospel, right? This is just tells you now we're going to investigate further. Okay, if a property comes out and it's a negative cash flowing properties and the yields are below 10, and you say, listen, this is a 1-bed flat or 2-bed flat or whatever, and there's nothing you can do it with, then you're like, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time going, I'm not even going to drive to Sandton, or I'm not going to drive to Boksburg or to Cape Town, whatever, because the yields are just terrible. And what you'll find is your yields are normally higher in the areas that are, what can I say? The areas which are lower income areas, if I can say that. So let's say in Sandton, you buy a property for 2-3 million, okay? But you can only rent it out for 15,000 or 20,000, right? Your yields are normally higher in your Johannesburg CBDs, in your Boksburgs, in your Kempton Parks, then in Cape Town, in your Sandtons, in your Bedford Views, in your Waterfalls, in your what's another place in Midrand, right? So because you'll find that someone will buy a house for 5 million, but they can only rent it out for 35,000, 40,000, right? The rental does not cover all the expenses, but then you'll find you buy a property in Berea, you buy a flat for 250,000 and you can get 6,000 for your rental. It makes sense. So some of these good areas, which are your Camps Bays, your Cape Towns, your Bedford Views, your Sandtons, your Midrand, your all these fancy areas are not good for investing. They call it fool's gold. It looks nice, but you don't make money from it. There's no cash flow in these properties. So where you want to look at, maybe you want to write this down, you want to look at properties that the average person can afford to buy and the average person can afford to rent. That's where the money is. That's where the numbers are. Properties that the average person can afford to buy and that the average person can afford to rent. Okay. And the mistake I made in the beginning was that because I don't want to live there, I think it's a bad area. But it's actually a great area because there's so many people that want to live there and can afford to live there. Not meaning that I don't want to live there, but it's actually a great area for investment, but it's not a great area for me to live in. Make sense? Like your best area, the best yields in the country is in Berea. The best 1-bedroom flat in Berea, you get the most returns in the country. That's your best buy. I don't want to live in Berea, right? But there's big demand in there. So if I buy a 1-bedroom flat in Berea, I'll get the best return for my money than anywhere else in the country. But I don't want to live in Berea, but I'll buy a flat in Berea, right? Big demand, property prices are still low, rentals are high, right? Demand and supply. A lot of people want the property, rentals go up. You guys know how that works. All right, let's move on. Cash flow calculations. This is simple. So your cash flow calculation is simple. It's your monthly income, your rental. For this example, it's 10,000 minus your monthly expenses equals your cash flow, your monthly profit. Okay, simple. Income minus expenses. I'm going to tell you now what all the expenses are. I put the rental and other income. So you might have, let's say for these buildings, I've got the rental coming in, right? Let's say I might have an advertising board up there, which I also get money from. I might get parking. You might pay for parking. So that's another stream of income. I might do a deal with the fiber company and say, listen, guys, these people are paying you 300-400 rand. I want 50 rand or 100 rand on every fiber package that you give out. That's another source of income. Make sense? So rental income minus your expenses. So for this example, your gross income is 10,000 for this example, right? Your bond, you got a bond on this property, that's 6,000. You're paying 6,000 bond. That's an expense. Your rates and taxes is 500. That's another expense. Sectional title, your levies is 500. Now you guys are saying, no, it can never be that. And I know it's just an example. Don't say levies can never be that. Rates can never be. It's just an example that I put together for this. Management fee. So normally for management, right, I would put a 10% management fee in there in my calculation. Write down 10% management fee. You can negotiate them down. Okay. Some people are 10%. Some people are 5%. Currently, I'm paying 6% for my management fee. Right. But I've got quite a few properties, so I can negotiate it down. If you got one, they'll probably charge you 10% on average. Some people are 10%, including that. Some are 10% excluding that. But if I do my calculations, always do it on the worst case scenario, put 10% excluding that. Okay, so when you rent out, say, when you do your calculation, say, okay, I'm management fee, I'm going to pay 10%. Now you're going to say, listen, but I'll manage it myself. And I'm going to save that 1,000. It's fine. If you've got 1 or 2 properties, you can manage yourself. If you get to 30, if you get to 5, or you get to 10, now it becomes a full-time job managing these properties. And for the goal eventually for properties to get you free, not to give yourself another job. And if you manage it yourself, a tenant pays 100 rand short. Like now I've got 3 tenants, one paid 400 rand short, one paid 500 rand short, one paid something like 800 rand short. Now, if I was managing this myself, now I need to send an invoice. I need to phone them. I need to send an email. I need to put them on TPN for 400 rand, right? How much time is it going to take for me to? I'd rather go play soccer, go to gym, or you understand? Then chase someone for 400 rand or 200 rand that they didn't pay that month. But anyway, you decide. That's, as I said, this is not about management. You just work a 10% management fee in there. Operating costs and voids. Now your maintenance, you're going to have to, tenant moves in and out, you're going to have to paint it. A tap breaks. There's whatever, electric fence, you have to send out an electrician for something. So what you do is you put a monthly fee away of 10% for your maintenance and your voids. Okay, so if a tenant moves out, you can paint the unit or the house, whatever it is you're buying, and then your voids. So tenants move in and out, you maybe have it vacant for a month or a few weeks or 2 months, then you know that is factored in. Okay, that is in a separate account. Now you've got your monthly cash flow. So for the next example, 10,000, bond is an expense, your rates and taxes expense, sectional title, levies. If it's not a sectional title, levies comes out. Management fee, 10%. Monthly operating costs or expenses, maintenance and voids, another 10%. So for this example, you're getting 1,000 rand out of it, right? Your cash flow. So this is simple, income minus expenses. Okay. Now let's work out your most important calculation. All of them are important because you can't do this calculation if you don't have the other figures. Now you know what your yields are. You're looking into a property. You worked out your cash flow. You know you're getting 1,000 rand positive cash flow. Now you know what you spent when buying the property. You have those fees. Okay, so your capital costs, your total one-time expenses incurred in purchasing and fixing up a property to be able to sell. So for this example, right, your capital costs, your transfer cost, your bond registration cost is 40,000. Okay, there's no transfer duties. The property is 800,000. That's under $1 million. There's no deposit here. Okay, you got 100% bond. You want to refurbish the property, that costs you 60,000. So for this example, your capital cost, one-time fees when buying is 100,000. Okay. Now you're saying, okay, I spent 100,000. Okay. Now I'm going to work out my return on investment. So of my own money, not the bank's money. The bank's money is other people's money. It's the bank's money. Your own money, you put 100,000 in. Okay. Now you're saying, okay, so the calculation for this is my annual net profit. So for this calculation, what's your annual net profit? It will be your cash flow minus your expenses will give you 1,000 rand monthly profit. It's annual. So you times that by 12. That'll give you your annual net profit. So your annual net profit will be your cash flow times 12. For this example, that's 12,000. Okay.
Sorry, Leroy, there's a request to go back to the previous slide. I think it's this one, or let me see. It's the capital code slide with the screenshot. Paga was saying that. I think maybe this is it. Is this the one? Yes, maybe this one, I don't know. Capital cost calculation.
So this is your one-time cost when buying a property.
Yeah.
So you spent, this is just an example, right? So you've spent, we put these numbers also so that we can show you, so I can show you, and so that we can show, I can show you how to work out the return on investment. Got it? Capital costs, transfer cost, bond fees, 40,000. There's no transfer duty. The property is under, we're using an example of 800,000 here. There's no deposit. You got 100% bond on this property. You spend 60,000 to refurbish it, make it look nice. So you've put in of your own money 100,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to work out your return on investment. Okay. So you've put 100,000 in this property. Okay. Now we're going to work out your annual net profit. So your rent comes in. You've refurbished this property. You've rented out now. You've bought it for 800,000. You've put in 100,000 of your own money, right? You're renting it out now. You're renting this property out for 10,000. Well done. Ha, you've got a tenant. Tenant comes in, tenant says, listen, Vangile says, I've got 10,000. Tenant says, I'm happy. I'll rent it for 10,000. Vangile has a bond of 6,000, which she has to pay to ABSA or Nedbank or Standard Bank, right? So she says, okay, I'm getting my rental of 10,000. I have a bond on this property, 6,000. 6,000 goes to the bank. I have to pay the municipality. Rates and taxes 500. It's a sectional title, so I have to pay my levies of 500. I'm not managing myself. I'm managing companies, managed for 10%. 1,000 rand goes to them. I'm putting away 1,000 rand every month for my operating costs, which is my maintenance and my voids. Okay. After expenses, I'm making a profit of 1,000 rand. Now, some of you that's exciting, some of you that's not exciting. Depends where you are. But at least you're making a profit, right? It's not negative. Okay. Now you're saying, I want to work out my return on investment. Do I do this deal or don't I do this deal? Currently, 1,000 rand monthly profit. You're just saying, okay, it's positive, but it's still not telling me whether I'm going to do this deal or not. Okay. Now you take your 1,000 rand, which is your monthly profit. You times it by 12 to give you an annual net profit. That's 12%. Okay. Now you say 12,000 will give you 12,000 divided by your capital cost. What was your capital cost? The money that you put into the deal is 100,000. Annual net profit. For this example, it's your 1,000 rand cash flow profit times 12 to give you an annual. You'll divide that by 100,000. The money that you put into this deal times 100 will give you your return on your investment. For this example, your return is 12% on your 100,000. For your growth, remember your gross yield was your gross rent divided by the purchase price of the property. So your gross rent for this example was 10,000 times 12 gives you your annual. Your gross rent was 120,000 divided by the purchase price of the property was 800. For your return on investment, you take your gross rent minus your expenses. It'll give you your cash flow, right? Times 12 to make it annual, divided by the money that you put into the property, which is 100,000 times 100, will give you 12%. Now you determine, if I keep my money in the bank, what do I get? I get 6% minus fees, probably get like 3% in the bank or less. You're losing money, right? What is inflation? Inflation is crazy. I don't even know what it is right now. It's just and
6.5.
Inflation.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a lot higher than that currently. With the petrol prices and the food going up, and the thing is just crazy. So that's 6% minus. We can actually halve that actually in the bank. Make it about 3%. The banks will always lie to you. So they say you get this amount, but then there's these fees and those fees and these charges and these charges. And right. So now you're saying for the property, if in the bank I get 6%, but if I put my money in this property, I get 12%. Now this is where you make a buying decision where you say, where's my money working the hardest for me? Is it working the hardest in the bank or is it working harder in this property? Now I decide, do I buy this property or not? And this is not even taking into consideration capital growth, because we don't invest in property for capital growth. Capital growth is a bonus. We invest for cash flow. Okay, because you can't determine with how much that property is going to go up in the next, on average, properties double every 7 to 10 years, but who knows? Something can happen and then it just stays the same for a few years, or prices actually go down. There's a squatter camp that comes up there. But that's also important when analyzing an area. Maybe one of the sessions we'll look at analyzing an area, how to determine whether you buy in the area or not. So that's running the numbers, ladies. That's a quick run through the basic fundamental calculations and the stages that involved. I think we got 5 minutes for questions.
Yes, we do. Load shedding really has trained us to be efficient. So guys, you guys have any questions? I actually did have a question and then it slipped my mind. Oh yes, my one question to you, Leroy, was talking about the luxury property market. You said that it's hard to make money in the luxury property market, but there are people that play in the luxury property market. So how do they make money in like places like your Sandton and other high-end places like Stellenbosch and places like that, Franschhoek? How are they making their profit?
So let's say let's use Sanson. So somehow some of them make money is that they'll buy, you can buy, let's say you buy these houses, you buy them and sell them. That's how you can make money, right? By flipping properties. You can also make money, you can make money by rental. You just need to know what you're doing, eh? Because let's say you buy a building in Boksburg, let's say you buy my building, you buy it for 10 million in Boksburg, that's 30 odd flats. If you buy 30 odd flats in Sandton, you'll probably pay double that. So now you must make sure the rentals the property price will obviously be high, but the rentals will also be high.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So you need to do the same calculations. It's just easier to make money in your average areas. You also have more people that can afford the rentals where we are than what you can in these places. That's why you find a lot of people that stay in Sandton that work in Sandton will stay in Randburg or somewhere because the rentals are cheaper there. But then there are people that stay in Sandton, but obviously they pay that ridiculous rentals and they can afford that. But you have fewer people there. Now, if you buy a property for 5 million and you rent it out to a family, if he defaults on one payment, how much have you lost? You've lost 1,000 rand.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you afford to pay your bond of 50,000 rand if the tenant doesn't pay for 1 month?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Got
But
it.
if I have a property in Boksburg where I've got tenants paying 5,000, 4,000, 6,000, and one doesn't pay, right? Obviously, it's going to take me more property, but my risk is also lower. Right? So that's the thing. If you have, and it's difficult to get in the market because you need a lot more money to get in there. So you can buy it you can go buy whatever you want for whatever you need, but you need to have the money for it. So it's easier to start small, start where you can, start where most of the population is. And then later on, then you can look at those fancier properties. But mostly they don't make money. On average, they don't make money, eh? Unless you Airbnb it out. If that is one of your strategies and say, listen, I'm going to Airbnb this out. It's a nice area. You can make money because now you're not charging per month. You're charging per day. It also depends on your strategy. What do you want to do with buy to lets don't work. Finish and clap. Buy to let, multi-lets, you can maybe say, okay, it's a big yard. I can build this. I can build 2, 3, 4 flats and make it work. You can if it's a freestanding house.
Yeah.
If it's in these areas, you can make buying and selling. You can, if you've got a lot of money to buy a property for 2, 3 million and sell it. But there's also, you normally sit with these things for the bigger the amounts, the longer you sit with the property sometimes too. If you are flipping, buying and selling. So those are some of the risks you need to think of. But and you need to understand that market. But for starting out, you start small. Start where you are. Eh? The amount of money you can get and the experience you have. If you've got, make your mistakes with small amounts before you make big mistakes, big amounts.
Yeah. Pelisa wants to know, Tanda says you've simplified everything, so thank you. And Pelisa wants to know, is it advisable to hold on to a property that has, I don't know if she means capital gains or maybe gross yield, because she wrote capital gains, that has a capital gains below 15% for 4 to 5 years. So I'm thinking, because we're talking gross yield, she probably means gross yield. So she's saying, is it advisable to hold on to that property for 4 to 5 years?
Okay, just hold on.
We only have a few minutes.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, man. I just had to give some load shedding advice there before we stop, just before the lights go off. Can you afford to lose money for 4 to 5 years? Do that calculation. If you're losing a 2,000 rand every month on a property, you times that by 12, times 12 by 60 months, and see if you can afford to do that. Then,
wow.
then you'll know. Then if you're willing to do that and hold it, then you can. If you can afford to do that, then you hold it, eh? Or if you've got another plan to say, I'm gonna hold it for a few years, I can afford to pay extra 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 in for 5 years. But do a calculation quickly. Eh? Some people say, no, hold it. Properties are good. Let's do a quick calculation. Take 2,000 times 12 times 60 months. That gives you, no, that's not right. 2,000 times 12, okay, will give you 24,000. Okay, if you times that by 60 months, is that right? 1.4 million. Oh man, I don't know if I'm doing the right calculation here. But anyway, I'm gonna switch off now. But
it's 2,000 times 12 times 5. And then like you'll
yes,
get the
times
answer.
5, sorry. Then you lose about 120,000. Sorry. Lose it. So now you decide, can I lose this money? What if something happens to my income and I can't afford to feed this property 2,000 rand every month, then I lose it.
But also 120,000 over 5 years is a down payment on another property in 5 years.
Exactly. So some people say, no, but SARS, I'm using it for tax benefits. If a property doesn't make sense just with basic numbers, then don't do it for tax reasons. Then it probably doesn't make sense. No, if I lose 2,000, some guys will teach you. If you lose 2,000, you can claim it back from SARS. Nonsense. Those are for people that can afford to lose that money right? They can deal with SARS, can get tax stuff. You're gonna get the tax breaks anyway, not pay tax on it if you're renting it out. So rather don't. If it's negative cash flow, just stay away from it. And if you're saying, listen, but it's a good property, I know, maybe they say something like, okay, I know there's a mall coming up. I know the airport is building things here, so probably prices are going to go up. And when it goes up, I bought it for 500, I'll sell it for 1.5 within 3 years. Why? Because I know what's happening with town planning. I know what's happening here. I'm confident that when it goes up in 2 years, I can afford to lose the 120 because I know I'm going to make 600,000 minus 120, and then I'll still make 400,000, and I can afford that 2,000. But you must have a plan why you're losing money. If you're just losing money in J&J, then it doesn't make sense.
Wow. This was such valuable advice, guys. I think I speak for all of us when I say we learned a lot. I've been like scribbling away on about some of these things. I think like the very valuable advice also is the questions that people were asking. Pelisa, that was such an incredible question. Thank you, because it's been eye-opening, I think, for all of us. So guys, thank you everyone for showing up. Leroy, thank you so much. We look forward to the August class. I think I speak for everyone here when I say like these classes are gold, and we are all who are always looking forward to the classes. So guys, if I'll have this recording up, I will send the recording as usual by tomorrow morning when you guys wake up in South Africa. The recording will be up. Penny will send through the notes. And then I'll post in the email and send everything out. Okay, without further ado, because I know we have like 2 minutes before load shedding and it's stressful for everybody, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. And once more, just remind you guys that we're still fundraising for the deal with Umziwetu. So the last deal we gave them 566,000 or 568,000 Rand a few weeks ago on the 2nd of July. So we are fundraising to give them a bit of money by the end of this month, and their return on investment is 17%. So 17% per annum. So remember that the last day to make your payments for that is July 24th, 2022. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for showing up. Thank you, Leroy, for showing up. And if you have any questions about the stock file, how to make the investment forms aware to you guys, post in the WhatsApp group or message Penny. Have a fantastic day further, or evening on your side, you guys. Like my day is starting. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. All the best. See you next month. Bye-bye.
See you next month.